The following presentation was recorded live in Los Angeles, California for the 24th Annual Convention of the International Association of Square Dance Callers. This is tape 12, Showmanship.
Welcome to the Showmanship intro session. My name is Tim Crawford. I'm the moderator, and our panelist, Mr. Jerry Jestin, here from Yuma, Arizona. Just let me tell you a couple things about Jerry. We're not? Jerry, that besides being quite difficult to work with, he's a little bit older than me. As a matter of fact, much older than me. He's been calling some 30-odd years. 30-odd years.
Yeah, I started when I was 1.
And he travels extensively, and he's a wonderful caller, and I know you're going to enjoy this session. I'd like this session to be completely open. So if you have something to say, I'd like you to yell it out, get my attention or get Jerry's attention, and just be part of the discussion. This is an open discussion. I don't know how many of you, have you been to a showmanship session before? That's good. So everybody else are rookies then, basically. You've never ever, you know nothing about showmanship. So you'd never know whether we were right or wrong anyways then. Anyways, the idea here today is that we just want to get you to expand some thinking about what you do and how you present your show. I like to call what we do shows. And through the afternoon or through the course of this hour and a little bit, we hope that you'll take away some things, some thoughts. Obviously, showmanship is such an individual thing. What I do specifically is not going to be what you're going to be able to do, because I am who I am and you are who you are, and Jerry definitely is not like anybody. So the important thing to know is that what we tell you here today is just intended to try to light a fire, try to spark. This morning we talked a lot about paradigms and that type of thing, so just try to think about a different way to present what we do. What we do is already by its very nature supposed to be an entertainment, although we focus, it's only part of it, we focus a lot on all the other aspects as well. But primarily we truly are going to focus on the entertainment facet of our calling. So I'm just going to pass it over to Jerry just right now. He's just going to do something.
I want to start off with just something just to listen to. Just take it for what it is. Don't be afraid to admit you were wrong. It's like saying you're smarter today than you were yesterday. It's better to get laugh wrinkles than worry warts. More important than the house you live in is what kind of living you do in the house. The only way to make a mistake is to do nothing. The greener grass on the other side of the fence is just as hard to cut. Don't be concerned with your rights that you forget your manners. A good place to find a helping hand is at the end of your arm. Discussion is an exchange of knowledge. Argument is an exchange of ignorance. The person who blows his horn the loudest is quite often in a fog. Happiness is not a state to arrive at, but a manner of traveling.
Please hold your applause. First off, I just want to, let me just read you my little preamble here so that I might be able to stay right on track. And in this showmanship session, or this entertainment session, let's call it that. I'd rather call it entertainment. That's all the same with you, even though it's titled showmanship. There's a lot of things that you can do to entertain the people that we call to every day. And I refer to all these individual things, and these are just a few of the most obvious ones, I might add. They're just a few of the obvious ones, is that we're going to go over this afternoon. Remember that some people come by these things naturally, too. Some people come by them naturally. So not everybody is going to be able to handle the same things that we talk about. Okay? So, could you guys move over here? This is a tough room to work. So anyways, basically what we're going to talk about today, our showmanship success is measured only by how much we entertain the people that we perform for. So sometimes people aren't entertained at all, so maybe we weren't very good at our showmanship craft that night if you have a headache, or if you're not feeling well, or if you're hungover, if you don't feel good about yourself. And I think that probably is the key. If you start right from square one, you have to feel good about what you do. You have to feel confident about what you do in order to do what you do well. Does that make sense? I didn't think it did, but there's all kinds of factors which affect audiences. The audience's ability to be entertained, and it's important that you keep in mind that not always do the audiences respond in the same manner to the same tool. And there's seldom any way for us to tell how an audience is going to respond in advance, unless you know that audience. And then even then, some nights we have the full moon scenario. Some nights we have external factors which directly affect the activity or the way that we deliver that night. Could be what we had for dinner. Perhaps our bodies react differently to certain types of food. Perhaps we have a bad haircut. Perhaps there's all kinds of things. Nevertheless, the first thing, and probably the most important thing that most people talk about, is the entertainment qualities through choreography. And just remember, Jerry, you are part of this discussion, so jump in. Okay? So the choreography, I'll just read what I have here because I did spend some time to prepare this on the airplane coming in. Of course, the ability of the caller to apply choreographic sequences in an active, correct, and smooth method will, in a lot of cases, be sufficient to entertain the dancers. Getting everybody home every time will, in most cases, be sufficient to entertain the dancer. A few interesting dipsy doodles and some unusual setups certainly serve to entertain the dancer. The occasional gimmick, I'm sure that's fun, occasional, and we'll touch on that, I'm sure, a lot as we go along here. The gimmicks that we use can be fun. They also can be overdone. And I'm sure that we all know that these things are important to us, right? Everybody knows that we're all, except for the rookies who have never done any showmanship before. These guys here primarily, I guess it was. So the choreography that we use, basically what I'm saying to you is that, effective choreography, dancers, I find that primarily dancers like things the way that they're used to. They like things pretty straightforward. We challenge them a little bit. I like to call just on the outside of the envelope of their ability. So I try to find, I start off easier and I work a little harder through the night, a little more, till I get them used to me, I get used to them. I find their average ability and then try to call just a little bit beyond that. And I put a little fun into it. I'm very, very fortunate that I have the ability to make people laugh when they break down. I've been very lucky. And that was a defense mechanism because I started calling a long, long time ago when I was just a kid. So when the squares broke down, I felt genuinely bad about it. So my natural reaction was to try to make them laugh a little about the fact that they broke down. And then I got to the point where that's all that they ever did was laugh when I call. So anyway, so the choreography that we use and that we call to the people should work, first off, in most cases. It should be relatively smooth and should be familiar to them so that we make sure that the dancer wins every time, because primarily that's our function. We want to make sure that they get through everything that we call and that they have a good time doing it, that they smile at least once or twice during that tip. The other piece of the choreography part is what we do on stage. When we are calling, if we have our hands in our pocket or if we just stand there, if we don't do anything, I know that the dancers aren't concentrating on us, but when they do occasionally glance up at the stage, it would be nice if they could see that we were paying attention to what they were doing and that we appeared, and it could all be an act, but it appear that we're having a good time. It's entirely up to you. I mean, sometimes I'm not having a very good time when I call, but I still appear like I'm having a good time, or I try to. And when I'm not having a good time, and if they're not having a good time, then I make sure I let them know that I'm not having a good time and that they're not having a good time, and I draw to their attention that they're not having a good time, and I say, I'm not having a good time. If they're not having a good time, I suggest we go to a movie or something, and then they all seem to have a good time after that. But sometimes you got to point out to them that they're not having a good time. And if I'm not having a good time and they're not having a good time, we shouldn't be there. We should be someplace else, like a movie. But anyways, so I draw to their attention. That seems to work for me. They come back for me. So that's certainly a mannerism that I have when I'm on stage, and I move around a lot. I talk. I have my arms going a lot, and it serves to entertain me a little bit too. I've actually fallen off a couple stages in my time, landing right on my head. Wham! Didn't hurt me at all, but could have been. Stages were 6 inches high in most cases, and I survived, but I have fallen off stages, pulled the entire sound system off with me, never missed a beat. And people laugh a little, and then you move on. But it's important that you know that choreography isn't limited to what comes out of your mouth, but also what you do on stage. It's important. Is everybody okay? Y'all look a little... You're okay? Are you guys getting this? Am I going too fast? Okay. You have something to say?
I would like to expand a little bit on what we're talking about on material. Everything that we do is entertaining the people. You're entertaining them from the time they walk in the hall until the time they leave. And if you happen to go to the same after party, you're still entertaining them, whether or not you want to or not. You are. And Tim was talking about some different ways that I try to create a mood in the dances if I can. If they have free rounds, the mood is going to be created by the pre-rounds. If they don't have pre-rounds, I like to have some music playing before people start coming in, and all the time while they're coming in. Now you may say, well, that's nothing to do with you, but it is creating a mood, and if you can create a mood in the hall, you are controlling the dancers at that point, and it's very important, I think. I'm fortunate in a way, in a lot of places, especially the home program, I do my own rounds, so that even before my pre-rounds I have music on. By doing my own rounds, I also control the non-round dancer during the breaks by the music that I play. And if you don't think that's the truth, in your subconscious, when you're sitting out there visiting between tips, the music that the round dance cuer plays a very important role on how you entertain the people that night, the feeling that goes around the hall. And it's been a plus for me to be able to do that, because then I control it. I don't like there to be any dead time except when I'm talking or when somebody's making announcements. I like to have music in the background all the time. At the end of the dance, as they're leaving, I still have music playing. I like to play a song at the end of the dance, whether I sing it or not, where they can get out and do a regular dance, whether it be a two-step or a waltz at the end of the night. And if it's a song that they all like to sing, they'll go out humming it. It's great. And I've worked those people all night long, and they may not even realize why they feel the way they do when they leave that dance. If they don't realize, that's great, I've done my job, if they go out feeling real good. We get into the material part of it as we travel around. If it's not your home group, if it's your home group, you got to work harder, because you got some of the same people coming all the time, and you got those people that come only once a month. Now you got to entertain them both the same way, so you're going to have to really work at what you're going to do and have it planned. The worst thing in the world is to come in, as I said, that have it planned. But the worst thing you can do, I think, is to come in with a whole planned program that night. Black and white. Years ago when we first started out going through caller schools and that, I know that the callers told me that you should have an idea what you're going to do each tip and write it down. And for many years I kept a little book of what I could go back and tell you what singing call I did, what tip, and what I featured in that pattern. And I would have that written down before, but it wasn't very long before I realized that you can't do that unless you know exactly who's going to be there. If you're out in an all-new place, you definitely can't do that. You can have an idea. You can say, maybe I will theme this, but you've got to be pretty flexible so that you can get the dancers to come with you, to respond with what you're going to do. So the first thing that I would do in a new area, or even a dance that I knew I had a lot of visitors, I would almost know what I shouldn't call, and that's what I would start to call. I want to get their attention early. Some places it's pretty easy to get their attention, because if you watch the first figure and you call head square through 4, swing through, and just pause a minute, and if the boys already run and they start to bend the line, you know you're going to have to work a little harder to start with. So that's good. Then you know where you're at. So then the next thing is boys trade, and we'll see what happens, and then we'll see how many really listened, and then we're going to break down a little bit, we're going to laugh a little bit, we're going to get back home. So then we're going to spend the first 2 tips perking everybody's ears up with easy things that are fun, a little bit different, but it makes you listen, but it still is fair to the dancer. And I think that's very important when you're trying to be a showman in front of the dancers to entertain them, is to be fair to the dancers. We need to be fair to the dancers.
That's fair.
That's fair. Thank you, Tim.
Just, can I interject here?
Do I have a choice?
No.
You're the moderator.
He brought up a good point about calling for a group that you don't usually call for is an interesting set of circumstances. This is what I do. Whenever I go into a group that I've never called for, I spend a lot of time before the dance. I try to get there really early first. And I stand by the door and shake hands with people as they come in and just kind of get the general mood. You can actually improve their mood if you meet them at the door, and if you're in the right frame of mind, you can improve their mood. That can work in reverse too, I might add. But you can meet them and get kind of a feel for, see if everybody comes in, and if everybody, when you say, hi, how are you, they go, huh? You know you might be in a little bit of trouble. If you shake everybody's hand and you're smiling and they smile back at you, that's great. If they're not smiling, you know, kind of have to how you handle that. But after I get everybody squared up in the first tip, I usually have them, I speak to them a little bit over the microphone, and I say things like, everybody turn to face your corner, look her right in the eyes, and do a yellow rock without touching, or something like that. I talk to them for just a split second. Then I get them squared up, and I usually start off a night with 2 singers. just kind of to get them used to my voice. And then they seem to be all right. They seem to be relatively, onto my voice, because sometimes I get nervous about dancing to new people, especially the lower level you go.
Taking quite a chance.
It is.
Singing right away.
Oh. You've heard me sing. So, singing is just like a term, I might add, that doesn't apply necessarily to me. But it's a relative term. Also, what else? There's another pitfall when you walk into a dance. Has this ever happened to anybody? You walk into a dance, you've never been there before. Someone comes up, like the president of the club, meets you and says, "Boy, we're really glad you're here. Now, these people dance a really good plus." Have you ever had that happening? You get up on stage and go, "Well, I'm going to let them have it then if they dance a really good plus." And you say bow to the partner corners too, and they break down. Is that right? That happens to me all the time. Of course, now I'm a little bit smarter now, and I don't listen to him. If he comes up to me and he says welcome, when he starts to say something about the dancers, I start to back away from him and start to walk away. Not walk away. I don't try not to be rude, of course, but I usually just thank him for his comments and try to. And if you do two singers to start off, in some cases, that eliminates that whole thing, because you have a mindset. Somebody can change your mindset, or maybe I'm just an impressionable young guy. Someone says something to me, and all of a sudden I think I can call exactly how they said. But the two singing calls, you're a little more regimented in how you're going to handle all the choreography in that singing call. Sometimes it helps to settle you down, because sometimes you can get a little excitable. I'm a little excitable sometimes. Have you noticed that? Would you believe that? Just a little uptight sometimes.
I wouldn't believe you were excitable at all. Now remember, what we're telling you is not going to work for everybody. I can't stand at the door and shake hands with people. That's not what I do. I will not ignore somebody if I'm close to them. If they're close to me, I'll shake hands with them. But that's not what I do. Tim does a very good job of it. And you have to decide what you're good at and use it to the best of your ability. That's what showmanship and entertaining the people is about. Now, how do you learn these things? You get ideas from other callers, and that's what we're here to try to give you some ideas. Just ideas. I'd like to, once we get done this, I want some ideas, because I want to go out of here with new ideas too. I want to learn some more things to use. I had never done two singing calls first. I used that later on, but that's an interesting concept. I like to use the singing call figures as a theme, and I like the word theme a lot. I like to theme things during a tip. During a patter tip, I want to pick out something early that I'm going to work. Now, depending what level you're calling, well, any level you call, you can theme half sachet, and you can start it, but I wouldn't do that the first tip. I'd start in and I'd call heads do a right and left through and a half sachet. And don't roll away. That would be my next call. Don't roll away. And of course, if you've ever called half sachet, most of the people are rolling away now or are halfway there and heard you say don't roll away. And up to the middle, and you come on back, slide through. You're looking at your corner. Again, we're helping them. They're going to win. Even if they weren't looking at their corner and they were on the wrong side, now they know they got to get over there, so we're winning again. And they laughed about it to get there. And so now we got everybody working. Do a right or left through, and everybody do a half sachet. Don't roll away. We're going to have to help that again, because most people don't use half sachet across the country. And so you watch them and you help them again, and I may even extend it right now. I've been calling two tips. This is my third tip, and I may say after that last roll away, I'll say slide through. You're all looking out if they don't say it. And of course, a lot of people are going to have to turn around, but we're going to smile about it. We're all going to smile about it.
It just reminded me of a funny story. I was calling up in Massachusetts, and
I wasn't finished.
Oh.
But go ahead.
So when he said about slide through and everybody ends up facing, I was up in Massachusetts calling, they speak a little differently up there, and I'm from Canada, so we speak even a little bit differently from there. So I was saying, everybody, you're facing out, and nobody could understand what I was talking about at all. So and which reminds me, all this stuff he's talking about half sachet. Have you ever called something? I know you have. But have you guys ever called something that didn't work the way you thought it would, and 50% of the floor standing there looking at you sideways, and your lines of four, some are facing in, some are facing out, so you got various things about half sachet, and even if you said don't roll away, it wouldn't make a difference because they wouldn't know what you're talking about anyways? Has that ever happened to you? And what do you normally do there? Panic? Bend the line? What if one's facing out, one's facing in?
Doesn't matter.
It's trouble. It's trouble. This is what I do every time. This is what I do. If you ever come to my dance, you'll watch. I'll do this. And unfortunately, I do this a lot in a night. But I say, everybody danced up to the middle and back. So if they're facing out, they all turn around and they dance up to the middle and back. So that corrects the people who are facing out. Then I have everybody pass through. And then I tell them the best looking one of the two of them should fold in front of the other one. And so they fight about who's the best looking one. And then I have them star through, which normalizes the couple. Because if the boy folds in front of the girl and you do a star through, the boy's still on the correct side of the girl. And if the girl folds in front of the boy and you do a star through, the boy's still on the correct side of the girl. Right? Then I have them bend the line, and that corrects it all. And they think that's all right. And they messed up, but they didn't know it. And I call what they danced. And that worked out. That works well for me. And back to Jerry.
Where was I? We were half sashaying, weren't we? Yes, we were. We were theming this. I don't know
We're
how
talking
this
about
got to
facing
that.
out.
Yes. And of course, you can in a mixed area where you're in where they talk funny like that, you can pronounce oot for the Canadians so they understand. And that's just the way it goes.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
And so now that we've worked with them, we played with them a little bit on half sachets. If you want to go farther with it, now you're explaining to them to have fun with it, that the right side dancer always slides in front of the left side dancer. And we've only done it, and I know there's no, if you were in the standard thing earlier, there is no standard for half sachet. There's no standard concept for half sachet in the CALLERLAB list. Come to our thing tomorrow, we'll talk more about that. But that's fairly standard for the girl or going in front of the boy. Well, do it once and then say, all right, let's do another one, boys in front of the girls. And we play with that a little bit, and that's just, you can't do it all night, but you can use a little bit of it. Then I would go to the singing call, and I would use 4 different figures theming half sachets with themes. Hardly any changes at all, but it wouldn't be the same figure. It would be 3 or 4, or it would be 4 figures, very slightly different, where they would win. Where they would win. And now they've had fun doing something that's on the list that they don't normally do. And I haven't had to get real outlandish with material or anything. And I've had them listening, and I've themed it. Now I've put it in my singing call, and they've relaxed with it. And hopefully they'll go back to their local caller and say, why can't I? Well, how come you never call us? Hopefully I'll be out of town by the time they do that. I like to do the double plays. I used to work as a DJ, an all-night DJ at a country station in my younger days. And I think back to the original music, and I use a lot of different music, and we're going to get into some of that here today too, as being part of your entertainment. How you pick music and what music you feel good with. I once heard that even the best country singer or the best opera singer can sing and usually likes to sing another type of songs, and they're good at it because they're good at music. And I don't think any of us should take a whole collection of the same type of singing calls and expect to be real successful with it. You got to use some kind of variety, but the variety has to fit you. You've got to feel good with what you're doing, but you got to do some variety. I like to do a double play at the 2 singing calls, but not the first hit. Later in the evening when I need to give them a little back-off time. And I like to tell them the original artists of my songs all night. But I'll say, I'm coming up to a double play. We're going to do a couple singing calls this time. And here's a couple Ricky Van Shelton songs if I'm in the country mood that night. Or we're going to do a couple of Neil Diamond songs. And I do that. And I never thought anybody listened. But I kept doing it. I never thought anybody listened. And I'm in places where I know I'm saying names of entertainers that maybe nobody even knows. I had some people come up to me afterwards and said, you know, I'm sure glad that you told us who sang the original song. I mean, that was really interesting. And they recognized whoever the singer would have been. And then I'll get to the point where I've done that a lot in a night or in a weekend or in an evening, and I'll get to one and I didn't tell them who it was. And somebody will come up after the dip and says, you know who that one was by? I said, no, but I'd sure like to know. Or you tell them somebody completely wrong. You do one that they know was Elvis Presley, and you call it something by somebody completely different, just to check to see if they're listening. And amazingly, some of them are. They're listening to you, and it's really good that way. I even set up my singing calls on a rotation now, and I have one of Supreme's big cases with the 400 records, and I carry 3 of those because I travel all the time in an RV. One of those cases is set up not by record label, but by original artists. I can go down and find a group of songs singing calls by the original artist. And so that maybe that whole night, I'll even pull out round dances by that artist. And the whole night, I'm not the whole night, but I'll may feature 2 Ricky Van Shelton round dances and then follow it with 2 singing calls on that. And then get off of that and go to something else. I even theme some of the dances, of course this would be more of a home program for you, along the lines of titles of songs. Tonight I picked dances that had the word love in the title. And I go back and pick some old stuff, some of the nice favorite stuff that everybody likes to sing along with. The whole night long I'm going to do a theme on love. I'm going to do a theme on the titles all had red in the title. And you'd be surprised when you start going through your records. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm going to theme tonight. And I'm thumbing through my records and I'm looking for something to pop out at me, something different. And I start pulling out records. I may even start pulling out 2 themes at a time because I don't know if I'm going to get enough records with the theme that I really wanted to do. And yet sometimes you do. So I work a lot on the music and making it a varied part of that. Do we need to... Well, you got something to say?
Could I add?
Sure.
Since we've changed subjects from choreography, we built a segue into music.
Wasn't that smooth?
Smooth. You probably didn't even notice it. But we're talking about music, and it's Jerry. Jerry just mentioned a couple things. Remember that not everything works for everybody. I can't do a lot of songs with the word love in it because I'm a young guy, and the average age of some of my dancers, people who come to my dances, are not. And
are not what?
Young, like me. So for me to sing about love to them, sometimes it's not good. Plus, my night when I call, I really don't concentrate on much about the romance of square dancing or love or things like that. I tend to do a lot more crazier things that are just a little more off the wall. I still do some things, but I can't sing. That's my big thing. I can carry a tune if it's pretty straight ahead, but I can't sing, so I don't pick music that way. I pick music that is good for its music's sake. Some of the royal music, for example, is just, the instrumentation is outstanding. The global music production stuff that's come out, the score is beautiful in that type of stuff. There's some new music out that has some minor key progressions in it. I don't know whether you take the time to listen to the music, but you really should. And not just the first little part of it, but the entire record. I tape, every record I get, I tape, and I put it in the car when I'm driving. I just listen to the music. Because that's the place where I sing the best, is in the car. And I sing loud in the car. So,
well, he does sing in the shower, too.
Yes, I do. Of course, I don't take that many showers, but if I did, I would sing a lot more. And do you all remember a singing call that was out a while ago called Shut Up, You Face? So I could never do that because I'm sensitive about the fact that, I'm 32 years old and the dancers are probably 2 times my age. For the most part, and for me to stand up on stage and say to them, "Shut up, or your face," is probably not going to go over real big.
And you're such a polite young gentleman.
Try to be, but anyway, so that's what we're saying. Jerry picks music logically for the titles, and he puts them together through the round dance part of it. I'm not as sensitive about that. I like my dances to be upbeat all the time, and so if a round dance comes in and it's a real slow waltz, I usually counter with something that's not quite so quiet. And if the round dance is something that's got a really good beat to it, I may come back and do something that's more like a ballad, but I don't do love songs, so I have to pick those records very carefully as well. And if you can carry a tune, you should. If you're a good singer and you know it, and other people have told you, that's the key. That you're a good singer. If nobody ever tells you that you're a good singer, chances are you might not be. So you should ask other people too. Ask people, "Can I sing?" And if they say yes, or that joke about "Can you sing far, far away?" that type of thing, you probably are not a good singer. But I pick music for different reasons. I pick them for tempo, for volume. No, that's not true. I control the volume.
Yeah, that's right. You do.
I pick tempo and familiarity of song and artist. I mean, I don't know half the people who sing. Everybody keeps coming up to me on Merzidotes, you know that song? They keep coming and asking me if it's a Spike Jones song.
I said, who's Spike Jones? Yeah, that's right.
And Neil Diamond. Well, I don't even know who Neil Diamond is, really. I know he's around still, I think.
I had that happen
Vegas or something.
on a song that we put on, and it was a bestseller here a couple of months ago in Palomino Records, and I put it on, and I sort of knew the lyrics. I'd heard this, but I never had heard the original song. I had no idea who sang it. I put it on, and these people are singing out there. They're singing this thing, and I'm thinking, you mean there's more words to this? So I'm thinking, weave the ring, sing it, and I'm listening and trying to figure out what the words are. I said, this is great. I'm going to learn this song. The next week, I had two ladies bring the whole sheet music of words to me. And I had never heard them.
I got an album. Somebody brought me an album series of Spike Jones or whatever now. Because I said I didn't know who he was.
Well, the song was Goodnight Irene. I now have 3 verses to Goodnight Irene that I can sing. The other 3 are the other kind of song.
Have you heard of the new rhythm release called 5 O'Clock World? Isn't that a great piece of music? I tell everybody, I get up in their second go, this is the opening song to the Drew Carey Show. But nobody watches the Drew Carey Show. Apparently I'm the only one who ever watches the Drew Carey Show.
You know why? You know, I used to do TV shows too. You know why? They're all square dancing and they can't set their VCRs.
Oh. 12.
Tim and I call our wives when we're on the road. Sunday, both of us called home to get our programs taped for tonight. We went through the TV guide, both of us. I can't believe it.
Yeah, we both called our wives.
And they're taping the shows we're going to watch this weekend. We get home, we're missing them.
Oh, well. Anyway, so that's what, just to demonstrate that those are the things that, I mean, I wrestle with those things all the time because I'm a young guy in an activity that's full of people who are older than me. So people come to me all the time and ask me about Spike Jones and the artists of the music. People come up and say, oh, I remember one that was, Tom Miller actually recorded it. It wasn't something about My Party or something. I can't remember. Anyway.
My Party?
Yeah, people were coming up and asking me who recorded that, and I said Tom Miller. I mean, I don't know what they mean half the time, but I mean, I have fun with that type of stuff too. I encourage people to come up and ask me those types of things so I can be kind of goofy like that, because they know that I don't know, and I know that they know that I don't know, and they still ask me, so then I
fake it.
So.
Along these same lines, when you're picking your music, remember who's out there in your dance tonight. Did a caller school, and there was some younger callers there, and we'd gone over, the thing about checking the speed, because you're responsible for the speed. You should know what speed you're calling at, and some of the records are cut faster than others, and that's why we have variable speeds, so that you can slow them down and speed them up. And that night, all the callers called, and this kid got up, and it was to an older group, and he pulled out the rhythm record, the Elvis medley, and right on 45 or 46. And most of all, that's really fast. That's really fast. Side space, grand square, and you're going, and they're running. And then it was an Elvis medley, and really, most of those people really didn't care for Elvis at that point. And you've got to understand that. Although you can get away with some stuff if you lead it in right. You can get away with some rock and roll. You can get away with some different types of music to people who would not normally do it. They'll allow you a little bit of it. If you do a good job of it, you may even sway a little bit of what they like to listen to. And I like to do that. I like to take the music that way. And I'm going to use a couple examples right now. I keep track of even hoedown music, and this was another thing, and you may have never thought of this. I use this a lot of times on the road. If I'm not sure, if I want to get a control on the people early, I use on my tip the patter record and the same label as the singing call. Now, do you know why I do that? It's the same feel to it. It's usually the same band. And there's a continuation, so the patter record just sort of warmed them up, and then you sang to them, and they were still in the same type of mode. Now, that's not always, but it does follow nice, especially if you're going to use some weird music. And then I do sometimes some wilder music, and I use music that I can find anywhere. I don't just use square dance music. And once we get the variable speed CD mini disc player to us, it's going to be unreal what we can use. A Swedish country band, and they put this country song out, but what they do on a lot of their songs in Sweden and in Australia, or in Europe and Australia, they will run 4 or 5 different versions of it, and they'll take out the vocals and they'll put in different instrumentations. And this is their version of country. And at first you would think, no, you can't do this to retired people. You can't put this type of music on. You got to ease it in, keep it quiet a little bit, keep them moving. Once they get moving to it, you'll be surprised how many people like it, and it's a good variety. You will get the vocal person who comes up and says, please break that record, I'll pay you to break that record. But they are few and far between, and usually the ones that complain, all of the ones that complain you hear from. The ones that you don't complain are the ones that, they liked it or they'll put up with it once in a while. And so there's some good variations on this. This is another one from over there called the Harmonica Man. And it's even got some vocal stuff in the background. Pulls in the beat now. You start dancing to this, and it's electrifying what you can do with it. Now you do.
I'll hold this for you.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, there goes the dollar bill over there. I'm trying to get now. I know that Axel F was one that came out for that movie Beverly Hills Cop, I think it was. I was using this as a hoedown before they started round dance to it. Matter of fact, the guy that wrote that was cueing our weekend. He pulled this out and he was dancing on the sideline. Thought he could write a cha-cha to it, and they did. The Mathesons from down in San Diego. And this here is the longer version from the movie soundtrack. And you can't use this a lot, but you'd be surprised what you can do with this kind of stuff. Now again, I'm saying not everybody's going to be able to do this or want to do this with this kind of music, but it is kind of neat. Now you can find stuff like this. This is a country album that I got. It has some instrumentals on it, and it's a couple of famous musicians in Nashville. I can't think of the names who did it now. It's called Jerusalem Ridge, and it almost feels like it's it's called Jerusalem Ridge. But it's like a lilt almost, like a Canadian step dance or something. And it's nice variety when you're working with different types of music. Sometimes you've got to be able to record it in different speeds too. Let's see when I got another one here I wanted. Even taking a round dance record that is a paso doble. You could use this for a grand march, but it's a great patter record. And once you listen to what it does all the way through, the people really start moving to this. And the funny thing now is that we started using a lot of varieties in music. We don't even care whether it has vocals on it or not. We take a record that has singers on it, and we dance to it. I think there's a lot of guys using Chukka Chukka as patter records now. They're going to sing to this, and if you work it right, if you listen to how you entertain the people by moving to the music, the chorus is Chukka Chukka, and if you can get in on the right and left grand, the people will sing along with this. They don't know what the words mean, but this is a round dance, and you can still dance to this. You call to it. 4 ladies chain across, then you roll away, circle to the left, go round the ring. Men star right in the middle, find the corner, alum and a left. Single circle, rear back, wrong way, weave the ring. There we are, Chukka Chukka, depending on how you want to do it. So it's just some neat varieties on that. Look in different places for music. It's really interesting what you can come up with, and they're really entertaining. And again, there's going to be some music you may not want to use, and there may be music you're going to have to work harder to use. We don't want to just use the easiest way every time. You work hard to entertain the people. You got something more on music? I
just want to go over a couple of these records I carry with me because they are like
it's the only ones you know.
The only ones I know, because I don't have to sing these ones. I mentioned to you that I start off the night with a couple of singing calls, and quite typically it's these 2 singing calls right here. Old Time Medley on TNT. Old Time
Melody?
Can't be a melody. I wouldn't be able to do it. This has, I think, 7 songs in it, 7 old-time songs. So I give them the illusion I know who recorded them, and then I do. And then I do the Maudie Wobbins medley. And this is, I don't even know if these are available anymore. Maybe Tom will be able to tell
I have
you,
a couple copies for sale, Tom.
But these records, I typically do these things together at the beginning of the night, just kind of get everybody, because they can sing along, and because there would be 14 different songs, I think, that I do through this, and because you don't have to sing any of them for any duration, you don't have to be good at any one. So that's important to me. Partway through the night, I go a lot for audience participation, and I use a record called The Matador. I use this a lot. Whoops.
Used to.
So I used to use that one. Thank you. The Matador. If you want me to play any of these, I will. But do you want me to play this one? And this one, I get everybody to. I have everybody, before you start the call, I have everybody turn face to corner and yell "Olay," and then I have them all yelling "Olay," just because I like to have total control over people. So I have them yelling "Olay" all the time, and then when I call the sing call, when I tell them to yell "Olay," they Olay back, which is good, because it makes me feel like I have control, and that's important to me, because I'm young and they're not. Okay, here we go. I don't think this is available anymore, is it? Oh, Tom has it for sale. I'd sing, but I can't. And that's right here I sing. Olay! Okay, no. See, maybe I should get y'all to do this. Okay? So we practice one. So I get everybody to say Olay. So everybody go, Olay. Olay. All right, so we're after one voice, okay? So every time I say Olay, oh, this is not going to work at all. So when I say Olay, you have to repeat the words Olay. All right, everybody turn face somebody aside, you say Olay. Okay.
That was better.
Okay. So if you feel like you need to get up and dance, please go right ahead. Here we go. This is how I do this. So you guys all have to yell Olay, because it'll make me feel better if you do. Old ladies promenade inside. Back home, swing there with your guy. Join hands, circle to the left, go round. Olay! Do an element on left and then go right on left grand. Meet the girl, swing the girl, and you promenade. And I forget exactly how it goes, but I have them yell Olay, and they Olay. And at the very end, when I say bow to the partner corners too, they all yell Olay. That's usually what happens. Already talked about mares and oats. Here's one that nobody ever should do. I got this record because dancers asked me to get it because they heard Jerry's story do it. They said, oh, you got to get this record. It's so great. Jerry does it wonderfully. Tell me if you know this record. Everybody knows this record. Don't give out the answer until everybody knows. Y'all know this record? Does anybody here do that record? Yeah? Man. Does anybody
like the record?
Yeah. Has everybody ever heard Jerry do it? I just about broke the record first time I heard him do it. I use it as a pattern. And occasionally I say something about fisherman luck. Oh. But it's not altogether that fast. You know? It could be, but it's not altogether that fast. But it's just great music. And the dancers they absolutely love dancing it. I hate calling it because it causes injury.
My wife hates it, and you understand why I don't use it.
If you ever met his wife. So, then a couple other records that are not, I don't think they're available. Tom, you might be able to support me in this, but here's what I do an entire ethnic tip at some of my clubs. I do a German one where I have everybody, they all bounce. Now, I never do all these in one night. No way, Jose. Because I'd never get back to that club, which is a good tactic if you don't want to go back. You do all these things in one night. But have you ever... I have people put their fingers in their belt loops and they all have to bounce, and the girls have to put their hands on their hips and they all bounce, and when they square through three and they meet their corner and swing, I interrupt there with everybody bounce. And then I have them swing the bouncing girl and they promenade. And they kind of enjoy that once every, 2 years or so. Well, is this available? It's on Blue Star. It's called Sprechen Sie Deutsch. Go look for us. See if it's on. Typically this happens, it gets kind of out of control. People start yelling at me and stuff. Here's another one. Have I bought a record? Actually, you know how I got all these records? I have to admit, we had a caller in our area who died, and I got all his records. Because Because he wanted me to have them. So this one here is called Lucky Lucky Me, and I don't know if you can get this one or not, but this is my Italian one. This is fast. And I sing along with them, make them sing la 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 la, and they all do this stuff, and they clap their hands, and they yell and scream. Again, I wouldn't do that every night. Then 76 trombones. That's a really good functional record if you don't have something like a Grand March. Is that available? Okay. And that's so it's those types of records that I look for those records when I come across them. I look for them, and then I use them occasionally. Not all the time. I try to do I do the main line, the rhythms, the royals, and that type of stuff at dances. I try and I don't kill them with all this stuff because everything in moderation. I really hate when people leave the sessions. Bye, Frank.
Now, taking it to remember that you use what you can use to the best of your ability. I probably take most of those songs and will never do them because I heard him do them. If I hear the guys that are traveling a lot do them, I won't take them on the road. I occasionally will use them for the people at home who I know will never hear those callers call them.
So, I'm not going to... Never mind.
That's right. You're fired.
I'm never going to Yuma.
But that's me. I just can't. I'm not going to compete that way. I do my own thing, and that's the thing to remember. Do your thing. Do it your way. If you hear a good idea, and that brings me to the point that I really want to stress with you. We've lost this somewhere along the line. How many of you dance to another caller regularly? That's better than I thought. That doesn't quite answer the question. It used to be, in the old days, that we danced a lot. All of us, we tried to dance to other callers. And the best way to research ideas is to be there and dance them. And you see them in two ways. You see them, those that do work, those that may not work, and you may be able to use parts of it and bring it into your program. But use it. Everything that we use is an idea that we've heard somewhere and we've adapted it to what we do. And you need to do that. I'm going to skip off this just for a minute. When I go into a new area for a club, I want them to feel like I know where I am. I don't want them to feel like the band that goes on and they've been on the road 12 nights and they get in and they get out there and they say, hello, Chicago, and they're really in Detroit, where they forget where they're at. And so I try to look in the local daily paper that day. I try to listen to some conversation at wherever I'm eating that night. Pick up something that's happening local. Funny or not, sometimes the straightest things that I say become funny because I only got half of it right. But they understand what I'm talking about. And I think it really makes them take heed that you enjoy what you're doing and you're looking into their home. You're at their home. You're a visitor in their place. And that you care for what's going on there and that you care to relate to them that way. Where I'm calling at a place weekly, nightly, I still watch the paper and try to know who's out there and relate it other ways. I want to tell you about a thing that happened a couple times, and I've expanded on it, but it's been in our winter program, so we're getting a lot of the same people. We get a lot of different people, too. Everybody, how many of you sing happy birthday to somebody at the dance that night? Have every one of you seen the new Royal record that's out with the 4 versions? The third one is really hard. You got to practice it before you can sing in front of people. But if you don't want to, you can turn it over and Tony sings all of them. But there's 4 bands, and they're all different types of music. Third one is a nice fiddle country cut, but it has a long lead in. And then there's another one that has, it's a MCA or something, and one side's happy birthday, and they sing along with you. And as you sing happy birthday, then there are 3 measures of 64 beats where you can call to it. And it's great music. And so you put it on and you sing Happy Birthday, and they're all squared up to who and so, and then you go, 4 ladies chain, and you're saying it's a Happy Birthday song. Get them back, and then you're singing, weave the ring, Happy Birthday, dear George. And then you get it back home, and then the very last one, it slows down. Then you're going, 4 ladies chain across you go. And they sort of get into it, and they do that. So one night we had somebody that I had picked on a little bit, and of course, some of their friends paid me to do this. I started with Happy Birthday, and we sang Happy Birthday. Everybody cheered. I let it go to the next one, and we sang Happy Birthday again. And everybody cheered less. Third one, we sang Happy Birthday again, and after that one, they cheered even less. And I said, I've only got 20 more versions I want to try out tonight. So the next week, somebody came in, and of course, nobody wanted to tell me it was their birthday. But you know, there's always somebody that's good that wants to tell you that it's somebody's birthday, and they don't want to know who it was. So they were all expecting, to hear 4 or 5 songs of versions of Happy Birthday again. And I put on, and so we recognized Dorothy and said, Dorothy's birthday. All right, let's put this on. I put on Auld Lang Syne.
I put on the Old Gray Mare. No, I'm only kidding. I never do that. Never. That's not a good thing to do. Yeah. Oh, is that what you do? Do you do that? See, you probably could do that. I can't do that.
There are other things too. When you're doing your theme dances or whatever, how you dress is going into the dances. That's very important. Not necessarily to be the same all the time. You got to pick up what you want to do. I know that some people don't like it. I have 3 very expensive cowboy hats, and they match my outfits, and I wear them occasionally. I don't wear them all the time. It turns some people off. I'm not a country entertainer, but I like the idea. And years ago, when I was brought up in this activity, hats were accepted inside, and a lot of the old-time callers wore hats. And those things kind of change. I do respect the views of not wearing it in meals and such where people don't want it. But I do enjoy that. Also, if you don't know what hall you're going to be in sometime, this happened to me in a hall, and I forgot that they have a dark blue curtain on it, on the stage. I come in dressed in dark blue. They couldn't see me except for my face and my hands on the stage that night. And it turned out pretty neat, but I wouldn't do that every time. I know that years ago we used to keep track, if you're calling, some people do this, by the way, keep track of what clothes they wore this year when you called at that club. Does anybody here do that? Good, there are some that do it. I usually have either got too fat or too skinny for my clothes. I have new clothes anyway, so I don't have to worry about doing that. But when you're calling regularly, I do keep track of the clothes that I wear, so that I try to not come in dressed the same every night, unless it's the night I'm trying to get a raise. And I come wearing the same clothes 3 or 4 nights in a row because I can't afford to buy any more clothes.
It must be nice to even have an opportunity to get a raise. So, the appearances, this is something that's very dear to me. I just think there is no place in this activity, because every time we pick up the microphone, we are presenters of a professional product. And I really have a hard time sometimes when I see what some callers wear when they're calling. And I know that there is a push away from, say, the traditional crinolines and everything for ladies, but we, as the entertainers on the stage, I think we can dress in a lot of creative ways without looking horrible. People that come to our dances have an expectation of how we will appear, and I'll be serious about this. This one thing only is that we should look neat, we should look tidy, we should look professional. I don't have any problems with jeans, and I don't have any problems with jean shirts, as long as you look neat and you look tidy and you have legs. Oh, and you're clean. Sorry, I thought you were talking about legs. But if you look clean, and make sure that, because it is important. These people are coming to the dance. They're paying to come to the dance, but even more importantly, they've taken time out of their busy lifestyle. They've chosen to come to your dance that night. So you should should be able to put on the show for them. We are dealing with a conservative mainstream group of people. We don't, for the most part, we are not dealing with the grunge and that type of stuff. So you want to make sure that you...
Have you got yourself in deep enough yet? Here I am wearing jeans.
It's up. So anyways, you want to make sure your fly's up too. Thank you for pointing that out. But that's something that's very important. You should look good. I mean, you should never ever go to a dance because you become a subcontractor to an employer, and you would never go to a job interview looking like that. So you want to make sure that you look good. Look neat, look tidy, and be clean. Smell good, and comb your hair. Brush your teeth, and never ever wear white socks with black pants.
Unless you're wearing cowboy boots.
Yeah. Anyways, I'd like to touch on humor. Humor does not work for everybody, and a lot of times, I got to tell you, it doesn't work for me either. And I get away with a whole lot because I make sure I build up to it too. I don't usually come right out of the blocks being silly and being, trying to be funny all the time. Unfortunately, for me sometimes, I say things that are funny, and I don't even mean them to be funny. It just sort of happens for some reason for me. But the people that have booked me, for the most part, I sort of lead them into it. I usually get out of the blocks calling those couple of singing calls or something like that, so that I just call for them at first. Then I get down at the break and I talk with them a little bit and have a laugh with them, and then the night sometimes it gets progressively a little more light. I work very, very, very hard to make sure that everybody laughs or smiles at least once every tip. I mean, that is probably the most paramount thing. Everything else aside, I want people to have a really good laugh and a good time when they come to my dance. When I'm calling, I really want them to have a good time.
In that essence of what he's saying, having a good time, I stretch it a little bit, where I'm going back to that half sachet thing. I pick out some moves, and I expect the dancers to break down, and I expect them to laugh. I'm not going to laugh at them. I expect them to have a good time breaking down because I've stretched them, and that's just something I do. I work hard on my choreography, and some nights are going so good that I even have to do this on purpose. I have to make a mistake and let them, get back at me. I mean, I've had to do it on purpose.
I never have nights like that go so good. I never.
And at the time that I make a mistake, I admit it to them. If it happens as an accident, all the better time to get out of it by admitting that you made a mistake. And that I found that the floor dancers don't mind it if you occasionally make a mistake and admit it. And then they don't mind breaking down and at some funny things that happen. Be fair to them, but they'll break down. And there's a better feeling then because they laughed at you and they laugh at themselves. And the caller's got to be able to laugh at himself. And that's very important in how you touch the people on the floor.
That's where that little get out that I use where everybody breaks down and they're all standing every which way, instead of just saying to everybody, hey, square your sets. Sorry. I have a big pregnant pause. Everybody looks at me. Everybody knows that I know that they're not in the right spot. And then I have everybody dance up to middle and back, and so that gets everybody facing in, and they start to smile a little bit more and start to figure out that I know that they don't know, and they know that I don't know. And then I have them do that pass through, and then one of the sexes fold and start through, bend the line, and they know that I just bailed out, and we get on with the dance. And they never missed the beat. They know that they broke down. I know that maybe I made the mistake. Who knows? But it just keeps it really light, because that's really important to me that I don't stress those people out with that choreography. If I call something and they don't get it, I do whatever I can do to make them get back into the dance as fast as possible. So that's where I use that type of a thing, and like I say, it happens all too often. Yeah, it's not very funny if you do it 7 or 8 times in a row. So, anyways, just to close this thing on humor, the humor doesn't work for everybody. I'm lucky, I'm fortunate that I sometimes get away with it. I can tell you that one time, that German singing call that I did, I had everybody do that thing, and I was I was really, it was a good night. Everybody's having a good time. We're all laughing, having a great time. I thought, oh, this is a good time to do that German thing. So I get the German thing all out, and I was in Montreal calling, and I put the record on, and I'm trying to get everybody to do this bouncing thing and the hands on the hips. And, they kind of went along with it, but not really. The whole mood of the dance had changed. And about halfway through, I aborted the whole idea of having them bounce and all this stuff, and I just called and circled. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out what was wrong. It was like, I thought maybe their caller does that record and he yells at them if they do anything silly or whatever. I didn't know. And afterwards, a guy comes up to me and he says, that's a cute singing call. He goes, but not here. Turns out that whole club is pretty much all of the Jewish faith. And they really didn't take very kindly to that German singing call. But, I had no idea.
Yeah, you didn't do your research, did you?
Yeah. That wouldn't have been in the paper. But it can really backfire. So you have to be really careful about those types of things. So I generally now, I start to ask a few more questions when I get to the dance about that type of thing. Try to figure out
if it's kosher or not.
Yeah. That kind of builds a segue to the next thing. Is like everything we're pretty much talking about lends itself to build an atmosphere for the night or set the tone for the night, and you really have the ability to control how that night goes. I control the night basically by the types of music I use, but I've started to use external factors like the lighting in the hall. I start to, if I can turn some lights down or turn some lights up or whatever, where I stand in the hall, where if their caller always stands at one place, maybe I'll choose to stand someplace a little bit different, just adds a little different slant to the night. But the sound, the different types of sound that you can use, lighting is important. Let's all put our heads down on our desks. But I always look for those things. I walk around the hall and I look for the light switches, and I try them. I switch a few off, switch a few off. It never fails. If it's a bigger dance, I switch a couple lights off, and there's like mood lights around, and it's a little bit duller light, but it's still light. Somebody will walk by, the club president will walk by, and he'll switch the lights back on, and then I'll go back and I'll switch the lights back off, and he'll switch them back on, and we'll be standing there arguing about what's going to happen that night. And I usually give in because I'm 32, but. But there's all those external factors that you can use. The weather outside sometimes, the temperature inside. If you have control over the temperature, have you ever had called a dance someplace where it started out and it was hot, and after the first tip everybody's huffing and puffing, and you just can't get the night going after that if you have no control over the temperature in the room? And I have seen some pretty sizable dances just go right down the tubes if the air conditioner in the hall breaks. 1 year. It doesn't take much. If you can control the atmosphere inside, temperature-wise, you should see if you can find a place to do that. And if you get a feedback from the people that maybe they're a little overheated or something, then you can make those changes. But you should be sensitive to the external factors because there are some other things that you can do that within the room. One other thing I do in one of my halls that I call at home, it's big enough to hold probably 30 squares, and I have 5 that come in. So rather than just having this big open hall, I just set chairs around so that we dance in a smaller area. And it just makes it look, well, it doesn't fool anybody, but it makes me feel better. Okay. So anyways, shall I close?
Yeah. Is there anything that we need to answer from the floor first? Is there any questions? Like we were trying to do, is just an overview thing for you. And we can't state it enough that you've got to decide what to do to entertain the people. Make it work, be favorable, be nice when you're doing it.
And try some things.
Yeah, don't be afraid to have something not work.
Go to your dance every night, try something different. Doesn't have to be much. But try something different each night. Just adds a little bit more to the show that you do. And some things will work, some things that won't work, and the things that work you log back here. The things that don't work for you, discard them. And pretty soon you'll collect enough things that you'll have a pretty darn good show, and it will be made up of you, not of a bunch of other people. And that's really important because each of us are truly individuals, I think.
I started with a little capsule thing, and I want to end with one, if I could, unless somebody's got something to say. If you buy the tape on this, you take time to read these again, because you can't get them when we're going through them this fast. Praise does wonders for the sense of hearing. If you aim at nothing, you will always hit it. No wishbone ever took the place of a backbone. The world needs more warm hearts and fewer hot heads. The man who makes no mistakes does not usually make anything. We fear things in proportion to our ignorance of them. If you are wise, you will adjust yourself to circumstances as water shapes itself to the vessel that contains it. Success is more attitude than aptitude. What may be even more important than knowing what to say is knowing whether or not to say it. How about a hand for Tim Crawford?
Mr. Jerry Jestin.
Thank you for being here this last hour. We enjoyed being here with you.
If any of you have any questions and didn't want to ask them publicly, Jerry will be here for at least an hour to answer them. So. Thank you all for coming. Enjoy the rest of the convention.